Greetings and welcome to another episode of Sports 101, the show that discusses sport beyond the X's and O's. Here we like to expand our conversation to include the history of the game, the past, the present, as well as in the making. And we also look at the game and people that surround it from a people, places, and cultural perspective. I'm your host, Jamar Harp. Be sure to follow me on social media at Coach_Harp412 and Facebook under Jamar Harp. Remember, get social with Sports 101. Sean and I in the morning, our flagship show, and the litany of other shows on SportsZone Chicago by simply following SportsZone Chicago on social media. You can find SportsZone Chicago on Twitter at SportsZone CHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Remember, SportsZone Chicago is the world's only Black-owned sports talk app. You can watch and listen to my show, as I stated, our flagship show, Sean and I in the morning, and so many countless others. You can keep up with your breaking sports news, your favorite team. If you miss something, you're at work or you're in transit, don't worry about it. All you got to do is go to YouTube and search SportsZone Chicago, subscribe to the channel. Now, once you do that, we need everyone, and I mean everyone, to download the SportsZone Chicago app. The SportsZone Chicago app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. Now, before we get to talk about this week's episode, got some exciting news for you. I need everyone to tune in next week. There's breaking news that's going to change the foundation of SportsZone Chicago and elevate it into a new stratosphere. Again, there's breaking news coming out next week that's going to change the concept and vision of SportsZone Chicago and elevate it into a new stratosphere. So we need everyone to tune in next week so you can get this breaking news, and you're going to be in ground floor for SportsZone Chicago, what's coming next, SportsZone Chicago at night, and so many other things. Again, search SportsZone Chicago on YouTube, but you can download SportsZone Chicago, the app in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. Now I'd like to talk to you about this week's episode, which is entitled Ross Family Values, HBCU versus BCS Track and Field. Now this picture right here is of Coach Dwayne Ross. That's him accepting the third place trophy at the 2021 NCAA Outdoor Championships. Remember, only football has an FCS, so in all of their sports where you're supposed to be quote-unquote an FCS school, everyone competes the same. So in track, there's no FCS, so this was won against SEC, Big Ten, ACC schools. The championships are held every year in Eugene, Oregon. This past year, we'll talk about that further on the show, but this is just showing you the success that Coach Ross has had at North Carolina A&T in track and field. Now, last month, the University of Tennessee, which obviously competes in the SEC, hired Coach Dwayne Ross. He was the 2021 NCAA Coach of the Year. Again, they finished third at the NCAA Track Championships outdoors. They plucked him away from North Carolina A&T, as he's now the head of track and field at the University of Tennessee. Now he replaces Beth Alford Sullivan, whose contract was not extended after 8 years with the Volunteers. Ross was the former coach again of North Carolina A&T, a mid-major NCAA Division I program. So again, if you're not into athletics, when you ask what is a mid-major, there's no FCS in track and field and other sports outside of football. So the mid-major institutions typically consist of institutions that compete on the FCS level in football. Now Ross has agreed to a 5-year contract with the University of Tennessee for $450,000 a year to oversee the men's and women's track programs as well as cross country. Now, this salary doubles the $230,000 paid to Alfred Sullivan in the final year of her contract, which again expired on June 30th. Coach Ross is going to work with the athletic director, Danny White, to hire a track staff and distance coaches for the cross-country event. Ross is University of Tennessee's only Black head coach at this time and only the fourth in school history. The last Black head coach at the University of Tennessee was J.J. Clark, who led the track program until 2015 when he wasn't retained. Prior to Coach Clark, Tennessee had 2 Black head coaches in men's basketball. The picture right here with Wade Houston He was the head coach from 1989 to 1994, and Quanzo Martin, who was the head coach from 2011 to 2014. Ross will transition to Tennessee after North Carolina A&T finishes his outdoor season. Currently, they're scheduled to compete this weekend in the NCAA East Preliminary Championships this week. Tennessee was quoted as saying, when researching the best track and field coaches in the world, it didn't take long to find a name, Dwayne Ross, said their athletic director in a recent press release. Athletic director White also said that he's built a profile that allows him to be incredibly selective in choosing his next move. Thankfully for us, the University of Tennessee has a track and field program with extraordinary history of national championship teams, individuals, and the dozens of Olympians. Now, Dwayne Ross has been a fixture on the national track scene since the mid-'90s. Ross is a North Carolina native who attended North Gaston High School in Gaston County. It's like outside of Charlotte. And he was a star football player originally. So he had playing tailback. He had a bad ankle injury. So to rehab, his coach suggested that, he start to run track. And that's where he found his new passion. So his senior year of high school, he won the state championship in 110-meter hurdles. Right after that, Ross signed a college scholarship at Clemson University. You can see Ross pictured right here. While at Clemson, Ross won 110-meter hurdles at the 1995 NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, which was the start of his prolific career. His first appearance on the world stage came at the 1997 Indoor Championships when he finished fourth in the 60-meter hurdles. He returned in 1999 during the Indoor Championships, but again failed to reach the podium, finishing just in fourth place. Moving on, he had great success outdoors that year as he got third in the 110-meter hurdles at the 1999 World Championships, where he ran his PR time or his personal record of 13.12 seconds. His times in the outdoor season allowed him to get in the Grand Prix final for the outdoor season across Europe. Yet he still finished off the podium with a fourth place finish. He was a runner-up at the 2004 United States Olympic Trials, where he finished second, and he competed in the 2004 Summer Olympics in Athens, Greece. He failed to reach the final in Greece after running 13.3 seconds for fifth place in the semifinals of the men's 110-meter hurdle. So you can see throughout his career, he was fluctuating between 3 and 5 pretty much. Following those competitions, they had the infamous Balco scandal, and after information received, Ross was called to testify in a case against his coach Trevor Graham, who had worked for Balco. So at this point, the anti-doping agency of the United States suspended Ross for 2 years for attempted use, possession, and trafficking of performance-enhancing drugs. As results of his suspension, all of the results from 2001 onward were nullified. Now, Ross was best known for winning the bronze medal at the 1999 World Championships in Athens, and he also represented the United States in the 2004 Olympics. Now, the reason it was only 2 years is because Ross was caught in a situation where he was given a product from his coach, who got it from the Balcor Laboratories, and was packaged in bottles, so it wasn't packaged as a steroid. So that's why his ban was very light versus others that knowingly took the steroid, and some years got lifetime bans and some even longer bans for the anti-doping agency. So in 1995, again, Ross won the NCAA championship in 110-meter hurdles, and he finished as a 7-time All-American and 5-time ACC champion in Clemson. At Clemson, he became the most decorated male athlete or track athlete. Some say male athlete and Clemson athletic lore. Now let's move into Ross's coaching career. So again, after he finished running, he returned to Clemson as a volunteer coach due to his retirement from international competition with a 2-year ban. After a few years at Clemson, he got hired by a Division III school, Methodist University, and became the head coach of their track and field program. Now, while he was there, Ross coached the women's team to 3 Mason-Dixon Conference championships, and they placed in the top 4 at both indoor and outdoor championships. He also got a regional Coach of the Year honors for the South-Southeast region with the United States Track and Field Association. Fast forward to 2012, the 5 season at Methodist, Ross was hired as the director of track and field at a Division I North Carolina A&T University located in Greensboro, North Carolina. Now, Ross arrived in 2012, selling the university's new athletic director on his goal to transform the school into a national champion. The athletic director bought into what he was selling, but it didn't work out that way at first. Things became real slow, and at one point, Ross thought about leaving. At his first season, both men's and women's teams finished worse than they had the previous year. They began to grow more competitive over time, and particularly the next 3 seasons, but they still couldn't close the gap on other HBCUs, per Coach Ross's words. He admitted at one point he almost left Greensboro. It had a Power 5 suitor approached him at that time. He would have left because at the beginning he thought he get bit off more than he can chew, and he didn't want to eat his words that he couldn't turn us into a national power. However, his breakthrough year came in 2017, and that was again fueled by recruiting. He had a new wave of talent that recruited his first standout runner, transfer Christopher Belcher, who chose A&T over longtime SEC and national power LSU. That year in 2017, A&T swept the men's and women's indoor and outdoor MEAC conference titles for the first time. Belcher was named the All-American and at men tied for 14th at the NCAA Outdoor Championships. So again, 14th is a phenomenal feat for a quote-unquote mid-major FCS school because, again, this is against the tops in the nation. So your SEC schools, your ACC, your Pac-10, your Big 10, your Big 12, they finished 14th out of all this group of schools. The next year, again, striving to get more, the 2018 class featured All-American sprinter Kamaya DeBose-Epps, who picked A&T over Alabama and Florida State, and also Cambria Sturgis, who was an unheralded recruit, more interested in academics than sprints. However, she turned into be a stalwart. Randolph Ross Jr., who will be recruited later, will become a gold medalist at the Tokyo Olympics, who, again, he signed in 2019. Now, the 2020 class, they were heralded by a handful of sprinters who ranked around the nation's best in several events, including Javonte Harding, who won the 200 meters at the indoor this year. Now, the Aggie men have won every MEAC indoor and outdoor title from 2017 to 2021, so they definitely qualify as a current track and field dynasty. The women, too, boasted a similar record, except for a half a point finish behind FAMU at the 2018 outdoor meet. So, again, I would classify the women as a dynasty as well. Under Coach Ross, the Aggies have swept both the men's and women's outdoor and indoor MEAC conference championships for the first time in program history. Again, this started in 2017. Following that 2017 season, Ross coached 13 athletes, more than any in HBCU history, who competed in the Division I national championships. So let's take a quick look at this video of A&T and their preparations for outdoor championships this year, or in 2017, excuse me.
It must be such a cool feeling to be really, really fast, like one of the fastest sprinters in the U.S. The North Carolina A&T Aggies have a number of speedsters, and they will be on the biggest stage of their lives this week in Oregon at the NCAA Championships. These Aggies are hoping not just to hang with the big schools, but to beat them as well. Stay with us.
Now, Fox 8 Sports with Danny Harnden.
When it comes to North Carolina A&T, you've heard of Aggie Pride, but today we're talking about Aggie Speed, as in the track team has lots of speed, the guys and the ladies. A&T is in Oregon right now, gearing up for the NCAA Championships.
It's close to the final exchange. North Carolina A&T in first.
The North Carolina A&T Aggies have already shown they can compete with the best in the business.
At the line, LSU and North Carolina A&T.
The men's and women's track teams sent 13 athletes to the NCAA Championships in Oregon this week. That's more than any other school in the state and the most in HBCU history.
There's no more, showing up at competition and being, starstruck. They are competing. They understand that they're one of the best in the country as well.
Represent for A&T. Like we're going out there to do it for all the small schools who think they think we can't run with them, but we bring 13 of us out there versus everybody in the country, so we're going to see what happens.
Belcher is one of the fastest runners in the country. He ripped off a 9.9 100 meters recently. At the time was the fastest in the United States this year. He'll be competing in the 100, the 200, and the 4x100 relay. The 100 meters sounds like it's going to be a must-see event.
Everyone's running 9, and everyone's basically, even including myself, know how to run under 10 seconds. So this year I think it's going to be really, really fast, and the heats are going to be insane. It's probably going to be, in my mind, going to be the fastest nationals of all time.
The Aggies have some speedsters on the ladies' side too, like India Brown, who will also do the trifecta in the 100, 200, and 4x1 relay.
I broke the school record a couple of times in the 100 and the 200, and we broke the record last week for the relay.
I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited to compete on the big field, pretty much, and see, all the excitement about Oregon's track.
We can come out, we can run fast, but, I'm trying to instill in them, be the best at whatever your academics, your job outside of track and field, whatever you put a lot of time into, just be the best at. So it's working.
It sure is working. The Aggies men's and women's teams swept the MEAC indoor and outdoor championships, and it seems like the only thing that can cool them off is an ice bath.
Oh my goodness.
Which is part of their recovery process.
Man, it's just a love-hate thing because, just that whole process going in there, it's just the roughest thing because no one wants to sit in 40, 50-degree ice water. But after like a long day of working out, your body's tired, like going in there is definitely helpful for recovery because the next day you feel like a brand new person.
And that's how the Aggies want to feel when they line up this week against the best of the best at Nationals.
And Chris is going to need that ice bath.
Yeah.
Now, again, that was a video before the 2017 Outdoor Championships, which are held every year in Eugene, Oregon, at the University of Oregon's track facility. Now I'd like to show you the men's 4x100 from that year and show you how A&T fared against the other competition.
Once again, Auburn in 4, Texas in 5, North Carolina A&T in 6, and North Carolina A&T with a slight lead as they go for the first exchange. An excellent exchange for the Tigers of Auburn. They are leading down the backstretch. Another excellent baton pass for Auburn, but A&T is out there also. And down the inside in lane 2, that is Florida trying to get into the mix, but they have been vanquished. Auburn wins it. North Carolina A&T almost a blanket 1-2 across the finish line. They will automatically qualify unofficially 38-48, which is superior to the first time and getting very close to the collegiate record of 38-23 by TCU. way back in 1989.
Let's take a look at the exchanges and what happened, and you were exactly right, Dwight, with Auburn and Odin Skeen leading off extremely well. Jalen Mitchell, the freshman from A&T, had a very good handoff as well. Here is the second exchange. It goes from the right hand to the left on the first exchange, and then a left pass, a left-handed pass to a right hand, and then it's on the anchor. It's right to left, as you can see the athletes all doing it. And about a step lead, he was able to just hold off on the inside Auburn by the narrowest of margins. That is the 6th fastest time in the world this year, and it's just a heat.
And the fastest time amongst the collegians in 2017, just 1/100th of a second, separating Auburn.
So right there in that heat, you saw Auburn first, North Carolina A&T second, and then Florida or Texas third. So just look at the company that they're running in as a quote-unquote mid-major HBCU or FCS school. This also goes to show you, if you look at what's going on with football, is if you build it, they should come. Again, A&T they're only running against people that look like them. So hopefully these other HBCUs see what Coach Prime and lots of other people are doing with this renaissance, and we continue it not only in football but other sports as well. We ain't about to Coach Ross in 2021. He led North Carolina A&T's men's track and field team to a 3rd place finish at the outdoor championships, and he was named the 2021 NCAA Coach of the Year. This is a final right here. You will see the outdoor final at the 2021 Outdoor Championships. And again, watch how the A&T men competed and who they competed against. I'm Jamar Harp, and this is Sports 101.
Here to Eugene. Final event of the men's meet. The 4x400 relay. The Trojans have the meet and the collegiate record from that amazing 2018 team with Ry Benjamin and Michael Norman on it. And we are looking at a team that has the 3rd best time in collegiate history, North Carolina A&T.
Well, the question is, can North Carolina A&T do what the USC Trojans did back in 2018, and that was to win the Open 400 and the 4x4.
4x400 relay is religion in College Station.
I'm all the way on the phone. We both are.
On the inside, Baylor, Florida, Stephen F. Austin, then Iowa, Texas A&M in 5, North Carolina A&T in 6th, then Southern California, Kentucky, and Arizona on the outside.
Talking to Dwayne Ross this morning, I said, how game is Daniel Stokes? He's a 100-meter, 200-meter guy who steps up for this relay for them. He said he's been all over a couple of junior colleges. He lands at North Carolina A&T, but he gives everything he absolutely can each and every time he gets that baton, and he is having a great opening run for the Aggies.
So is Nicholas Ramey for Southern Cal, and on the outside, Nash Williams for Arizona. Who's going to pass first? It's the Trojans. And they will run Brian Herron on second leg. Down on the inside now in lane 2, Florida doing a great job. Ryan Willie led off. This is Chance Sawyers. Who's going to get the pole? It looks like the Trojans from here. It is. Trojans, Florida, A&T, who has Randolph Ross, who won the Open 400 and is now in the lead.
Well, in a matter of 120 meters, Randolph Ross takes that team from 6th all the way to the lead. He's showing that 400-meter championship speed.
He ran the 2nd fastest 400 meters at this meet ever, and the 3rd fastest in collegiate history. So A&T now with Akeem Sirleaf in the lead. The Trojans with Cameron Samuel. Remember, Isaiah Jewett said, make no mistake, I will be on the anchor.
Randolph Ross 43.6 on that baton carry.
Florida in third still with Denzel Villeman. And then A&M sneaking in there in fourth place, Amajua Atewi. Their 800-meter specialist. A&T passes first to Trevor Stewart.
And Trevor Stewart paid special attention and made sure he had the baton in his hand before he turned his head. Didn't want to make any mistakes here. He's been the anchor for them both indoors and outdoors all season long.
Jewett, the 800-meter champion for the Trojans on anchor. Here comes Devin Dixon, the tall countenance of the senior. His final race for the Aggies. Aggies in first, Aggies in second. This is Bryce Dedman. I'm sorry. Dedman is on the anchor. He was second in the 400 flat. Can he catch Trevor Stewart's too big a gap? And here comes, is this Stephen F. Austin? No, Kentucky on the outside. I can't see the number. No, it's Austin, just like I thought first. Amazing close on the anchor. 44-12. 43-45 for Austin. Ahmad Robinson. 43-45 on anchor to bring the Lumberjacks up to second place. A&T runs 3 flat, 92 for the victory. Dedman brings them back in 44-12. A&M gets third.
Now, again, you can see right there, not only did they win the NCAA championship, but had the third fastest time in the world. And again, this is supposed to be from a quote-unquote inferior institution, FCS, mid-major, HBCU, whatever label you want to put on it. So again, what does this show you? That if you do it and you get yours, you can beat yours that go to other schools. Now, 4 athletes from that team went on to compete in the 2020 Summer Olympics. Those athletes included Randolph Ross right here, and Trevor Stewart. Both of them, they ran preliminary heats in the 4x4, but weren't selected for the final. So they got gold medals as well, since they did compete in that 400. Ross and Stewart, again, did great in the prelims, but weren't selected for the final. However, they both received gold medals. Now, this generation of Aggies is not the first from the HBCU to sail on the track while lacking budgets, facilities, and funding compared to the rival against predominantly white institutions. Tuskegee high jumper Alice Coachman, who has a school named after her in Atlanta, became the first Black woman to Olympic gold medal in 1948. Tennessee State had a great legacy at HBCU track and field. They ruled women's track and field under Coach Ed Temple, who produced dozens of Olympians, including Wilma Rumoff and the entire 1960 U.S. 4x100 meter relay team. They all were Lady Bells from Tennessee State. You also have Morehouse alum Edwin Moses, who held dominion over the 400 meter hurdles, winning 122 consecutive races between 1977 and 1987. Last but not least, the great Leroy T. Walker. Again, North Carolina A&T is popular now in track, but the original GOATs of North Carolina are the Eagles from North Carolina Central University. Stand up, stand up. And the legendary track coach, Leroy T. Walker, he revolutionized track and field. He's a former Olympic coach. He's known for having a Russian delegation come stay on North Carolina Central's campus when they had some USA versus the world track meets at Duke University. So he's done a lot of work in the community as well. United States Olympic Committee, and for HBCU, MEAC, and of course the great North Carolina Central University. So even as integration redirected talent away from HBCUs in the 70s and 80s, some schools continue to thrive although that prosperity gave way to more sporadic success in the early 2000s again, because I don't know if the notion is you think the ice was colder or was a better opportunity, but more and more like their own. I always like to tell people that, if Catholics didn't go to Catholic University or Mormons didn't go to BYU, then the schools would close down. So we took that same philosophy with HBCUs, and particularly athletics. We will be representing just like those great HBCUs we talked about in the past, as well as North Carolina A&T is doing right now in men's and women's track and field. At North Carolina A&T, Roy Spaceman Thompson, he had led the Aggies track team to 5 conference titles in the 1980s to the early 2000s, but his teams never finished better than 46 at nationals. So Coach Ross took what Spaceman did and elevated it to a national level, getting his team all the way up to top 3 in the United States. I'm Jamar Harp, and this is Sports 101. We're going to take a quick break, and we come back. We'll finish talking about the HBCU powerhouse, North Carolina A&T men's and women's track teams, when we come back.
Please stop and listen, because this important message may directly apply to you or someone dear to you. Several thousand African American former full-time CPS teachers were unfairly terminated starting in the mid-90s and continuing to the 2000s. If you are one of those many former CPS teachers who was unjustly terminated, or if you are the immediate relative of a now deceased unjustly terminated former CPS teacher, you may qualify to participate in a lawsuit at no upfront cost to you. Please call 773-580-7183 immediately for more information. That's 773-580-7183. Do not delay. Act today, because time is of the essence. That's 773-580-7183. 773-580-7183.
Welcome back. I'm Jamar Harp, and this is Sports 101, the show that discusses sport beyond the X's and O's. We talk about the game from a people, places, and cultural perspective through the lens of history in the past, present, as well as in the making. Please make sure you get social with Sports 101, Sean and Maya in the morning, and the litany of other shows on SportsZone Chicago by following SportsZone Chicago on social media. You can find SportsZone Chicago on Twitter at SportsZone CHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, search SportsZone Chicago if you miss anything. But more importantly, download the SportsZone Chicago app. The SportsZone Chicago app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. Now, please remember, at the beginning of this show, we talked about some breaking news that's going to happen next week. I need everybody to tune in. Please listen to Sports 101 next week. You have some breaking news that's not going to only elevate this show, but SportsZone Chicago as well. The world's only black-owned sports talk app. Now, before the break, we talked about Coach Ross and his coaching. Now we like to go into the Randolph Ross effect and how his son has revolutionized or caused a genesis. His son is like the Travis Hunter in track, pretty much, to HBCUs. As with Travis Hunter, the number one recruit, Ed, if you look at what his son did, going from 6 to 1, is very impressive, being on the Olympic team, and he's still in college right now. So again, the Randolph Ross effect is what we now going over in this episode of Sports 101. Now, it's going to be hard for most Olympic track and field athletes to top Father's Day gifts. Randolph Ross, again, being special, try to do that as well. Last year, he qualified for the Olympic Games in Tokyo after finishing third at the trials in the 400 meters. That gift brought his dad, his college coach, to tears for the first time in a long time. And his dad called it one of the proudest moments, not only as a father, but as a coach as well. Coach Ross said it made him come full circle. Again, Coach Ross is a former track and field athlete who competed in the Olympic Games in Athens in 2004. Randolph was only 3 years old then, and in the stands he watched, but he doesn't think, he could quite understand what was going on. And he says Randolph never saw him shed a tear his entire life, but at the Olympic trials, he broke down because he was just so proud. He also stated it just wasn't about Randolph making the Olympic team. It was about his goal. He said he took his victory lap and he came up to me and said, "Happy Father's Day." And what father would not bring to his knees? Randolph, following his dad's footsteps, has competed in track and field since he was 5 years old. He went on to win gold again in the Tokyo in the 4x400. With his dad beating with proud from the stands, even though he only competed in the preliminaries. Again, they were together this Father's Day at the Outdoor Championships in Oregon. And after this season concludes, Coach Ross will be transitioning to the University of Tennessee, which was announced earlier that he accepted the director of track and field position. But in more breaking news, Randolph and his sister Jonah are going to follow their dad to Tennessee as well. Now, Randolph still has another year and a half of eligibility to go. However, he recently confided in his father that he will become pro and he wants a team national championship, having so come close to the title in 2021 at North Carolina A&T where they finished third. So he wants to set another goal of winning a team national championship before he goes pro. His dad definitely can relate to him finishing second at the NCAA championships and just wanted to get that taste, out of his mouth would being a champion. Randolph said the decision to change schools was his dad's to make, and his sister were going to support him regardless. Most times, you would think as a current Olympian, with his success, he would go pro. But, Randolph has a different approach. He decided why should he go pro if his things aren't going to change for him. He's getting NIL deals. If he went pro, he'd still be doing the same thing, training every day, doing the same thing. So why not, just continue it for another year at Tennessee? Now, Coach Ross was happy that Randolph and his daughter Jonah decided to join him. He didn't want to put any pressure on him, as eventually he has to spread his wings and they're going to part ways. But again, Randolph wanted to come and get this team championship, his last one of his few last collegiate goals. Coach Ross stated that, he didn't even pressure him to sign with A&T when he was coming out of high school. He didn't go on recruitment visit with him to other schools because he thought it'd be awkward for him. Nor did he talk to him or try to convince him to come in at A&T. However, Randolph decided on that because he viewed it as a challenge. Now, 2 years into his career with the Aggies, he's already added on to his family's impressive legacy. And again, he'll continue that legacy with his last year at the University of Tennessee. Recently, Randolph Ross became the most decorated male athlete in recent years from all HBCUs due to his international and national status. On February 12th, at the Tiger Paw Invitational, ran at Clemson. Ross ran a 400-meter dash in a blazing 45.21 seconds. That was the fastest time in the United States this year. Now, a day later, he ran at 200 meters in a time of 20.50 seconds to take over the top spot in that distance as well. Now, I would like to show you this year's 400-meter final. Now, this year as a team, A&T didn't do quite as well as they anticipated. They finished 9th, I believe. This is a far contrast to their third place finish in 2001, which they wanted to, improve on that. However, some things happened and they didn't. But I would like to show you Randolph Ross in the 400-meter final and how he capped it off.
Lane 2 is open. Emmanuel Lamadele, the freshman from Texas A&M, is a scratch. Last back-to-back winner of the 400, Karani James in 2010 and 2011 for Alabama. And he went on to be Olympic champion in 2012.
It's going to take 43-something to win this championship today.
A huge advantage for champion Allison being behind Jonathan Jones and Randolph Ross. And Ross is going to have to run like he's being chased. Because he is.
And Dwight, he's doing just that. He's going out hard, knowing that he's in lane 8. He can't see the two guys that are going to be really his competition right now, but he has to focus on his race, and he's doing it to perfection.
And he's got nobody to focus on now that he's made up the standard on Richard Kuykendall. Coming into the finishing stretch, Randolph is doing a great job, but here comes Elijah Godwin and champion Allison. It is Ross. I'm waiting for a move from Allison, and it's not going to happen. Randolph Ross is going to successfully defend. Out there in lane 8 all by himself. Allison gets second. Elijah Godwin third. 44-13 for Randolph Ross in repeating as NCAA champion.
Now, guys, we said it might take 43 to win. It didn't take that, and it's because Randolph Ross broke the competition. Because he was in lane 8, he went out hard and made everybody chase him, made them leave their own race strategies. And like I told you, he needed to get to that 100-meter mark first. And once he did that, he is one of the strongest finishers in the entire world in the 400-meter dash, and he showed it off. You see it here, coming around the curve. Champion Allison and Elijah Godwin there trying to push him and press him. But Randolph Ross does a very nice job of staying within his form, going to his arms when his legs are gone and tired, and not tightening up like some of his other competitors.
Well, and you can see Randolph Ross is absolutely a next-level competitor. He's going to do well at the Olympic development level. But so many times we've seen him in races where he has to come up with the performance all by himself, nobody else pushing him. And once again,
now, again, that's Randolph Ross winning the national championship against Florida, Georgia, Arkansas. Again, showing you, his prowess and why I consider him the Travis Hunter of HBCU track and field. Combined with an earlier performance as a member of A&T's 4x400 relay team, this trio right here has done a lot of great things during their tenure. You have Elijah Young, Daniel Stokes, Trevor Stewart, and Ross. They ranked number 1 nationally in 3 different events. Now, although his 200 mark has been surpassed by LSU's Terrence Laird and Florida's Joseph Famboule, Ross was among the favorites to win 1 or more national championships at the indoor track and field championships which were held in Fayetteville, Arkansas, on the University of Arkansas's campus in March. Preparing to meet that challenge has been complicated, again, by the pandemic, which forced the cancellation of the MEAC's championship meet that year and limited their indoor schedule to only 4 competitive events. However, his ability to perform at such a high level, despite the obstacles, left his father and coach very proud and impressed. Coach Ross called Randolph a gamer, said he was proud of his son and his star pupil. He began to say that the different phrases when the brightest lights are on, the stars will shine, and it's just a matter of time of him getting into the competition and having fun and just doing what he loves to do. Now I'd like to move on and talk about what is the next chapter of A&T track and field. We know that Coach Ross is gone, so what are they going to do moving forward? Now, Randolph, again, he had made it official, again, stating that he will be joining his father at the University of Tennessee. He's also being joined by his sister right here, Jonah Ross, who is also a sprinter and will be competing in the same events at the University of Tennessee as well. Randolph said it was hard leaving what was built for a decade, talking about his dad and what he did. However, the desire to change schools was his dad's to make, and him and his sister are going to support him to the fullest. Randolph is going to be a rising senior at the University of Tennessee, where he wanted to sit out, and Jonah will be competing as a junior. Now, as the future of North Carolina A&T track holds, after the Ross family announced their departure, the next question is how many other A&T athletes may join him as well in Knoxville. They could stay, obviously, and run for the new coach, who was former Olympic hurdles champion Alan Johnson, who was named the current coach this past week. But some of the athletes that may be considered leaving is sophomore Javante Harding in the Big South. He finished as champion in the 100 and 200 meters, and he finished third at Eugene, Oregon in the outdoor championships in the 100 with a time of 10.08 behind, I think, LSU and Florida. Harding ran a career best time of 19.98 in the prelims in Oregon in the 200 meters, but he got disqualified for running out of his lane. He won the 200-meter championship at the NCAA indoors with a time of 20.46 seconds. The next athlete that may decide to join the Rosses at Tennessee is freshman Grace Nwachukwu of Nigeria, who finished sixth in both the outdoor 100 and 200 after winning both events at the Big South Championship. Again, she's a true freshman, and she's one of A&T's coveted track performers. So what's next for Tennessee? Now, the addition of the Rosses should pay immediate dividends to their lineup as the Tennessee men have, fell off recently, and particularly in the SEC. They finished third at the outdoor championships in Eugene. They scored 34 points, finishing behind Florida with 54 points, and second place Texas with 38. Now, their star runner was freshman Wayne Pinnock, who won the long jump, while fellow freshman Favor Ash was second in the 100-meter dash, just ahead of Harding from North Carolina A&T. So if Harding transferred, they can have an effective 1-2 duo in relays as well as the 100 and 200. This past year in the outdoor, Tennessee finished fourth in the 4x1 and did not make the 4x400 finals. In addition to the 400 meters, Randolph ran both relay events for A&T. So again, this should bolster the Volunteers track and field squad. This year, the Aggie men finished ninth in the NCAA outdoor competition after finishing third last year. So this is one of the reasons that Randolph Jr. decided he wanted to stay in college and get that team national championship. Now, Randolph and Jonah with their dad this week competing at outdoors in Eugene, which is the 23rd to the 26th. They're trying to earn a spot on the U.S. team that will compete at the World Track and Field Championships that will also be held in Eugene in July. So please check that out on July 15th through 24th. Randolph, who repeated as the NCAA outdoor 400-meter champ after winning the indoor, had the second best time in the event, which was 43.85 seconds behind Michael Norman, who ran a 43.60. Jonah is in the women's 200-meter field, and her best time was 22.91 seconds. Now, in closing, what can we say about all this? Now, Coach Ross has dealt with so many in HBCU basketball, football circles are trying to accomplish, get the best black talent in the nation to go back to HBCUs. Very simple. As there is no FCS in track and field, everyone competes at Division I, which helps as there is no dichotomy in divisions, so you can't stratify the kids saying, well, if you go here, you'll be FCS and you can't compete against the best. In track, if you got the best times, you'll go to Eugene. Now, North Carolina A&T were beating teams with triple the budget on national television, as well as internationally in the Olympics. So that clearly shows that top black athletes will go to an HBCU. We just have to figure out a way to get more to come so we can continue this genesis and getting the best athletes, back home. Now, more sports should be implementing the Ross model and taking the high school athletes and building them into national champions. So getting the athletes that are not quite on top, but they have some things to work on, and being a good coach, just not getting ready-made players. Remember, if coaches promoted the HBCU experience more instead of being bashful, I believe more student athletes would consider the opportunity. If you look at what the predominantly white institutions do, they say if you come here, this will be better off than going anywhere else. So I think our institutions should start selling that as well. And then when the wins come and A&T track prospers, Jackson State football, Morgan State football, so many others, it'll domino. Remember, as Coach Prime, Deion Sanders stated, we are just getting our best athletes back home where they belong. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sports 101. I'm your host, Jamar Harp. Be sure to follow me on social media at Coach_Harp412 on Twitter and Facebook under Jamar Harp. Please get social with Sports 101, Sean and Maya in the morning, and a litany of other shows on SportsZone Chicago by following SportsZone Chicago as well. You can find SportsZone Chicago on Twitter at SportsZone CHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Remember, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search SportsZone Chicago. But we need everyone to download the SportsZone Chicago app. Remember, the SportsZone Chicago app we found in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see everyone next week. Remember, we got breaking news that's going to change the stratosphere of Sports 101 and SportsZone Chicago. So everyone, please tune in next week. I'll see you on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I'm gone.